Hey everyone, hope everyone's having an absolutely wonderful night. Let me adjust the lighting here for a minute. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone's having a wonderful Tuesday night. I wanted to check in about a video that I saw yesterday, and I've seen a lot like this that have just hurt me. I don't want to say hurt me, but I guess you could say it hurts. We're seeing just an overwhelming amount of medical professionals have credentials um, coming forward talking about what an absolute mess it is with the virus in New York City. Um, and I have a couple of things to say about it. And I also have a couple suggestions, especially there's a nurse that I spoke to today that she actually asked me to do this video. So I'm doing it specifically for her. We're going to do some basic energy healing techniques and some basics of his Bodhidut, or what I like to call praying with fire. So, whew, the world is in a situation right now where it's, we've, the things that we're seeing, we've never seen before. You know, it's obvious that, it's obvious that the world has changed. It's, um, it's obvious that the world has changed, and we have to kind of figure out how to maneuver through these changes and talk about what is within our control and what isn't within our control. Um, Being intuitively gifted, I believe that we are going to see the virus calm down in June, and I don't know what's going to be for the future. But if I were a gambling person, I don't know that we're going to be bothered with it again. Now, that's not to say that it won't come back. I think it's highly doubtful, though. I am concerned about the murder hornets. That concerns me, and I'm going to get to the freaking murder hornets in a little bit. But right now, we're going to talk about some things that have just been going on. The countless videos that I've seen of doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners that are just reporting back absolutely terrible things that are going on in New York. Everything from, medications not being given, ventilator, people being hooked up to the ventilator incorrectly. I'm going to post a couple of the videos that I've seen at the bottom of this when I'm finished with this video, so you guys can see for yourself what I'm talking about. The bottom line is, I believe that what we are dealing with is a plague. I think it's by God, and I think it's to get our attention. Hence, maybe the murder hornets. It's another reason to stay inside. My wonder is, what is going on that God wants us inside? And then you take a look at the state of the world. I mean, there really is a battle between good versus evil going on in the physical world and in the spiritual world. And I understand that medical science has its place. And but I also think that to treat the coronavirus with science only is incorrect, because I truly believe that we are experiencing an actual plague from God. Now, there's only so much that a medical professional can do. Let's get into basic energy technique. Well, let's talk about God for a second. Since I strongly believe this is a plague, our only course of action really is heavy duty prayer. And some people will say, if you say, well, do you talk to God? They'll say, well, I think all day. I think about God all day. And that's not speaking to God. That's thinking to God. When we actually speak out loud, to God. What we're doing is we're putting ourselves, it's called, the actual expression is called Hisbodedut. It's the highest level of prayer. It's personal prayer. And with those words, we can pray for anything, especially during the middle of a global pandemic. I would imagine a lot of people are praying for the end of this to come about. When science fails us, we have to start examining it as a spiritual matter. And science is really hit or miss here. Take a look at the death toll, the amount of people that are, even if they have the coronavirus, but they die of something else, they're still being treated, or it's being said on their death certificate that they died of the coronavirus, when that's simply not true. So we have a lot going on here that's very confusing. And I think it's important to remember God in all of this, and what we can do to enrich our relationships with God. And think about it. What can I'm not a medical professional. Most people watching this probably aren't medical professionals, but what can we do on our own individual level? And I think that would be including the pandemic into our personal prayer, where we say every day to God, please, God, I ask you to heal all of those sick, heal the mind, body, and soul of all of our medical professionals. And we have to wonder, do our medical professionals know to pray? The medical profession is where I've dated doctors. You hit a lot of ego in the medical profession. And my concern is that, are these doctors really doing everything they can, or are they doing everything they can within their skill set? When everything within your skill set isn't working, we have to then ask, what more can be done? I think personal prayer and speaking out loud to God is our absolute best recourse against the virus and the murder hornets. So in combination with personal prayer, we're also going to get into energy healing techniques. Now, I happen to be an intuitive reader with energy healing capabilities. I am not an active energy healer, but I certainly can. And when I think about, well, what can I do to better the situation? What can I personally do to try to bring about resolve to this? And each of us go through this on a personal level. Every one of us has healing energy within our being. Every one of us, we're made of water, we're made of tissues, we're made of bones and energy. Some people even have the gall to call soul energy. The bottom line is we all have energy. And when we're energy healing, we can actually push the energy out of our hands. So one of the things that I would recommend to anybody in the medical professional at this point, especially if you're dealing with the virus, before you go in to work, or even when you're at work, put your hands up like this, kind of like, the little emoji, the praying hands, and put them up a little bit above your head, and say, God, I ask you to flow your healing energy, take my healing energy and hand it to all of those sick and all of those in need. What it's doing, whether the energy is healing, whether energy healing works or not, okay, which I believe it does. What it's doing is it's a game changer in your prayer. So you're not just thinking to God, you're not just talking to God, but you're also putting an action into place. It's a game changer when God sees that people are really willing to do anything they can to bring the world out of duress. And that's something that I think is very important that each and every one of us can do. Getting on to the murder hornets. Does anybody have any questions regarding personal prayer? I'll just recap really quickly. For the medical professionals who don't know what to do, who've utilized all their skills and resources, for the nurses that are trying to call advocacy groups to get people involved to bring forth attention to what's going on from advocacy groups. The bottom line is we're in a global pandemic right now, and people are trusting the medical professionals, and the medical professionals are getting on Facebook and getting on YouTube and telling us what is going on. And the news isn't, especially coming out of New York, the news isn't pretty. We got hit very hard here in Michigan. And one of the things that I've noticed is at least not that I've seen any doctors or nurses from Michigan coming on talking about any of the debacles going on in our hospitals. This seems to be a really big problem in New York. And then I think about, well, what's in New York? What is New York known for? New York has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. And I think about the amount of Jews that are local. Why aren't each and every one of these people on their porch and out their window sending energy to the sick and dying people? It's within our religion. It's actually permissible. For those who are interested in taking energy healing classes, I have a great reference. A dear friend of mine gives them and does training. My point is, we have to think outside of the box. We have to start thinking creatively, and we have to start thinking spiritually, and we have to start thinking like people of faith. God is the giver and taker of life, okay? And our outcomes are based upon the outcome that God provides for us is based upon our actions. And when you are constantly praying in action, what you're actually doing is becoming a part of a group cultivation of positive energy. And our hope and our goal is to overturn judgments in heaven and save lives, because that is really where the lives get saved. We must fall on the mercy of our God. We really don't have any other choice. When we're at the point where we don't know what to do and medical science doesn't know what to do, we have to get creative and say, well, what can I do? And energy is something that exists in each and every human being. Even the intention. When you start praying out loud to God, what happens is, imagine if you can think about it, there's an angel above every blade of grass, okay? We are constantly in the presence of angels. So when we're talking out loud to God and we're making our desires known, our prayers known, even our frustrations known to God, because there is no other source, no therapist, no nothing that can take a problem away from you. What we're trying to do is manifest miracles. And when the angels see this is someone who sits and talks to God, the angels then become motivated to pray with you and for you and to perform miracles. And I'm serious. We have a force field around us of angels who are here to do a job. And when you're doing your job and you're including God in everything you do, you're motivating the malachim, the angels. For those of you who don't know what malachim is plural for angels. In Hebrew, our malach is actually for a singular angel. So the angels are becoming motivated to pray with you and for you, and to start, and because they want to perform miracles. They want to perform miracles for humanity. So we're giving them reason to perform miracles for humanity. Now, okay. Speaking of plagues, we now have something called murder hornets, for crying the hell out loud. Okay. For those of you who don't think the coronavirus is a plague, let me ask you something seriously. Do you believe yet with the murder hornets? Or do we need pterodactyls to come back? We're at the point where all we have, what can we do to stop the flying or the migration of murder hornets? It's not like we can get out our AK-47s. What are we going to do? Hose them? These things are like that big. They're 2 inches. Apparently the venom is you die instantly. And I think that it's interesting that we've gone from one plague that's kept us in the house to another plague that surely is going to keep us in the house. This is real dangerous. This is really dangerous. And my question would be, regardless of where the coronavirus comes from, whether it was created in a lab, whether it was because of people eating bats, whether it's 5G technology, it really doesn't matter where it comes from, because only one being can stop it. And we need help right now on Earth more than I think we probably ever have since the Exodus of Egypt. We have the responsibility at this point to pray for biblical level miracles, and there's a way to create them when we are all in unison trying to talk to God, pray with God, not bargain with God. No. We're talking about prayer. It is so important to remember that God is the giver and taker of life and death. Like if there is any hope of getting rid of the murder hornets, it's with God and God only. This is getting to the point where people are confused. We have so much going on, and we have so much going on, so many self-help and motivational speakers that will tell you to look inside yourself and speak to yourself and your higher self and look to yourself and think for yourself and all of this self-talk, when there is a God above you and there is when we are the creation of a creator. How are you going to solve all the problems when you're looking inside of yourself and not asking for divine help? And the reality is, we're in a place right now in the world where we need divine help. Think about everything that goes on in this world, and now it's murder hornets. Is it not clear? Are there still people who struggle to believe that God is actually communicating with us and we're actually watching the world change in front of our very eyes? It's gotten to the point where we have to wake up. We have to wake up, and we have to remain awake. At this point, our lives actually do depend on this. And, in terms of the people dying of the coronavirus, what we have to do is pray for these people, pray for those who are still sick, but we also have to take into consideration that sometimes it is someone's time to go, and nobody likes to talk about that. And there has never been a death that God is not aware of, and that's something that I think needs to be at the forefront of our minds, and that when we're praying out loud, we have to take into consideration that we are praying for a life or death matter. We are praying for judgments to be overturned against humanity. Take a look at the things that go on in this world. Do you honestly believe that God would not step in at some point to fix this himself? These are gentle reminders, and we're being forced to stay in our homes. I would rather be in my house than have the coronavirus. I would rather be in my house rather than having murder hornets. But then I also ask myself, while I'm in my house, what can I do to better the situation? And the only thing that comes to mind is prayer, because most of us are not at the level where we can. And really, think about it. Who are you going to call to fix the murder hornets? Does anybody know? Does anybody watching this have a solution other than prayer to get rid of the murder hornets? Probably not, right? Apparently the Ghostbusters don't deal with that. And I don't know that, I can't remember the name of those pest control companies. But I'm saying we're dealing with real life crises. When you think about these things, and what is our only recourse is prayer. We're not going to get out with a bat and go beating the murder hornets. They're dangerous. It's at the point where we absolutely have to start taking our role in this world, our role as a spiritual being having a human experience, very seriously. And when you start looking at your life as I am a spiritual being having a human experience, you're changing your perspective rather than I am a person and I know everything. if we are spiritual people, we have to resort to spirituality to fix our problems, or to at least try. I'm asking everybody to open up their mind and to actually try. Try the energy healing techniques. You have absolutely nothing to lose by praying and sending healing energy to people who are sick. We have nothing to lose. It's all we do in this equation is gain. And I think it's just really important to remember, going through all of this, that we have one course of action. We have one course of action to pray. Does anybody have any questions or any insight that they would like to share? I'll give you a chance. I'll give everyone a chance to respond. I just think that we have to start talking about this, because the medical professionals are making these videos and they're heartbreaking, and they're telling us the truth, by the way. They're telling us how bad it really is. And I think it's important that we all stand up and actually do our part to try to get rid of this the best we can. Our medical professionals right now are working their asses off. It's our responsibility to pray with them and to pray for them. And for those who don't know to pray, ask God. Please, God, give all the doctors and the lawyers, or doctors and the nurses, even lawyers, give everybody the strength to pray and to know that their knowledge, their wisdom, their abilities come from God and God alone. When you're a nurse, especially right now, it's a heavier responsibility to pray, because you need to pray for yourself. You need to make sure that you're spiritually okay. And for those who are crying out, we hear you. And the whole point of this video is to offer a solution, maybe a possible solution that maybe might help, no matter how far-fetched it might seem. I don't know that there is going to be anything stronger than prayer to get rid of this. We have to take it very seriously. If there is ever a time to pray, the time to pray is now. And shout out loud, the nurses, doctors who are dealing with this, go into your kitchen, scream to heaven, God, please give me all of the strength that I need to go to work and to save lives. Let God, incorporate God into this. For those who don't, and for those who are doing it, know that we're with you, and know that you have people praying for you, because nobody wants the doctors and the nurses to get sick. Nobody wants them to lose their mind. Nobody wants them to break down. And when we start praying with fire, we're switching up the game changer, where we're putting our angels around us in a position where they have to become our advocates rather than our babysitters. I truly believe that we are at this is going to, I'll tell you the truth. If I were a gambling person, I don't know that I would believe that this is going to be here, and medical science could say otherwise. I just have a feeling, and I know myself, that this is not going to bother us for much longer. Everything has been a gentle nudge from heaven. My fear is that, what if I'm right and God brings us redemption in the mother freaking reckoning? That I'm afraid of. I am afraid of Nibiru. I am afraid of having meteors thrown to the earth. If we don't start waking up, watching how rapidly the world is changing and unexplained things that are happening all over the place. It's not just the murder hornets that are our way. There's locusts all over Kenya eating the crops alive. There's rivers turning to blood. There's natural disasters. We actually, for those of you who pay attention, there has been an increase since the coronavirus of natural disasters. For example, on April 11th, in one evening, there were 15 volcanoes. For those of you who don't know, that is very uncommon. That is not normal. There's been earthquakes all over the place. We have to start. And oh, honey, the murder hornets, we're talking for Ariella, who mentions the wasps. The murder hornets are coming. We need to pray for these people. Ariella, is there another thing with wasps? Or are we just in danger from murder hornets? I'm going to give her a chance to respond. Um, I just feel like at this point, we have to make prayer a practical part of our everyday life. And it's so much more than whether or not you want to do it. We have a responsibility to do it at this point. People are dying. Um, we have strange things going on all over the world. And then when you say, well, how could God do this? How could God do that? I want to share with you a story from the Torah. Oh, Ariella meant the murder hornets. That's right. I thought Ariella for a second there. I thought maybe there was wasps. I was hoping. I thought, God, no. But there's been an increase of a lot of domestic violence. There's been an increase of sexual abuse since this quarantine. When you think about and not to mention the sexual abuse that's already happened, not to mention the things that go on in this earth every day, people being cheated, people, lying, people stealing, people doing all sorts of things they shouldn't be doing. We're at a point in the world where we have to take a look around us, look at the behavior of human beings. When Hillary Clinton, thank you God in heaven, didn't win the presidency of the United States. And I would love to see a woman president, but I want a woman that I can believe in. I don't want a woman that I think murders children. I believe every bad thing I've ever heard about the Clintons, by the way. Every single bad word I've ever heard about the Clintons, I believe. But take a look at the way that people behaved during the election. Take a look at the way people are behaving now in Michigan with the riot, with the protesting, and with our governor giving us wishy-washy messages. We can't rely on our government. We can only rely on God. And we are starting to see day by day that our government is not our friend. And we need to do something else, because we need to do prayer, because that's all we have. We don't have anything else. We don't have any other power. Most of us can't get diplomats on the phone and invoke change. I know some pretty interesting people, and I don't know anybody that could change the world with a phone call. I have to do that by way of prayer. We have to do that by way of prayer. We have to give God a reason not to bring us big, scary, horrible Gog and Magog. We have to pray that we are able to deserve better and receive the same outcome. And it is my biggest fear that if we don't do that, because we are watching the world change, that we are going to be dragged into this war, kicking and screaming and praying for bigger miracles and praying for I mean, think about it. Right now, look at the way that people are acting, just being stuck in the house. So when the murder hornets come, we're also going to be stuck in the house. If there is a all-out war, do you understand what I'm saying? The pattern here is us being stuck in the house. We need real redemption from heaven. We need real redemption from heaven. It is so important. It is just so important. And when I see these videos from these doctors and nurses talking about, comparing, the people are being murdered and by inadequate medical care, we have to pray for the mental, emotional, and psychological and spiritual well-being of our medical professionals right now, that they make good decisions, because God gives us an outcome based on their decisions. And we've seen my mother, for example, I've seen some big miracles with my mother. My mother, why do I believe in the power of prayer? Because my mother, thank God, may she live and be well until 120, is alive today with everything that she's been through. Last year, she had 2 broken hips. She spent time in nursing homes, and the first thing I did was get prayer on it. Hundreds of people prayed for my mother, without exaggeration. My mother now walks comfortably with 2 broken hips and 2 hip replacements, and everything that went wrong, everything that could have gone wrong in those operations did. And then she was diagnosed before Passover with the COVID. And she went into the hospital, and she was in the hospital for 4 days. And those 4 days, there are people who still pray for her now. I've watched my mother be living proof that prayer, the power of prayer, can heal. And that when we are not ready to let go of somebody, that we need to overturn judgments in heaven. Whatever the reason is that God decided to do this. And it doesn't matter where it originates from. When people think plague, you have to understand something. For every miracle, there's usually a practical or rational explanation. And whether this is, and think about it, we're on our way to the reveal of the Messiah, of Mashiach. This is very big news, and this is a very big deal. And the world is rapidly changing. The world will continue to change. We have to be able to change with it, and to know that no matter what happens, we believe in God and we pray to God regardless of what the circumstance. So you have to hold on to hope and hold on to faith right now, stronger than I think most of us ever have had to in our entire lives. It is really a big deal. It's really not a joke. And it's basic energy healing techniques. Just put your hands in front of you like this, like the little emoji. Push your hands forward and say, God, I'll give you it. For those of you who are interested, let's do it together right now. So put your hands like this, put them in front of you, and say in my words or in your own words. It really doesn't matter because the intention is all the same. Hashem, I ask you to use me as a vessel to flow healing energy out of my body and give it to all of those who are sick, and give them an immediate and miraculous refuah shalema. And please wipe the coronavirus off the face of the earth. Please, God, wipe murder hornets off the face of the earth. Please, God, wipe all evil, no matter where it lay, off the face of the earth. No matter what that means, no matter what you have to do, bring us the best possible outcome and heal all of humanity. Heal the evil and heal the stupid. And bring emunah, bitachon, to every man, woman, child alive, Jewish or not. How hard was that? In fact, I feel very good. I feel the energy flowing, and you can actually push it. For those of you who don't know, like if you have to do your hands like this, where you can push the energy out of your hands and send it on to, when I think of sick people, I think of all of those in the hospital. I think of hospitals. I think of the word COVID, and I just put my hands out like this and ask God to use me as a vessel to flow his healing energy from my body to all of those who need wellness, accompanied with prayer. That's a basic exercise. It's basic praying with fire, and it's basic energy healing. Yeah, Ariella just said it's a release. It definitely is, because you're releasing all of your pent-up energy. We're at the point where we have to do something differently because our lives depend on it. I don't want to die from murder hornets. I don't want to die from the coronavirus. I don't want to die, I want to be alive until 120. So I want to that's my responsibility, to pray for that every single day and to pray for other people, because what we're really doing is trying to overturn judgments against humanity in heaven. On a more spiritual note, there's been a lot of talk about around the spiritual trials in heaven between the angels and the tzaddikim. And the angels want Gog and Magog because they know that it will remove all doubt of God's existence. And the tzaddikim want a peaceful redemption. The question is, do we deserve a peaceful redemption? I don't think so. I'm being honest with you. I don't think humanity as a whole deserves a peaceful redemption. I don't believe personally that the Jewish nation deserves a peaceful redemption. I don't believe that. I still pray for it. I would love it to happen, but I don't believe they deserve it. Too much has not been done. For Mashiach to be revealed to the earth, Jewish people have to be the moral authorities of the entire world. What people fail to remember is that when Mashiach is revealed, there will be no other religion on the face of the earth. Hashem is not an equal opportunity employer. Mashiach is coming here to redeem the entire world. And he is not coming with a bag of options of what to believe. And according to any prophecy, Mashiach is coming to basically do a very serious job to redeem the Jewish nation and the entire world. So when we have people who don't know about energy healing, we have Jews who don't know about energy healing when it's in our religion, we have to ask ourselves, do we collectively deserve a peaceful redemption? I personally don't believe we do. There's been too much sexual abuse. One of the visions that I've had over and over again is of the heavenly throne being soaked with the tears of sex abuse victims. I truly believe that redemption is coming 200 years earlier on the tears of sex abuse victims, if nothing else, because these are the people who pray for their lives. These are the world has to change, and the world is going to change, and we need to change with it, and we need to pray for the best possible outcome, whatever that means. So even if Gog and Magog comes, even when Gog and Magog, I'm not even going to say if, when Gog and Magog comes, we need to pray for the best possible outcome. And we have to be honest with ourselves. Everybody who here watching this video believes, be honest with yourself. You don't need to be honest with me, but you need to be honest with yourself and God. How many of you believe humanity and the Jewish nation deserves a peaceful redemption? Does anybody believe that? Please feel free to comment. I don't believe that. Too much has been done wrong. We've had every level of clergy molesting children all over the place, whether it be from Judaism to Catholicism to Islam to the miscellaneous churches to the Mormon religion. Think about it. We need something to shake the foundation of the earth where people are scared and need to behave. Too much has happened to foolishly think that the Messiah is coming on a cloud to say, I'm here to be your body. I have a feeling it's going to be bend the knee or die. That's the vibe that I get. I don't know if there's any prophecies to back that, but I have a very strong feeling that when Mashiach shows up, you're going to have two options, bend your knee or die. And I think that's probably even the way it should be. People have too many choices. People get lost in their thoughts. People are tripping over their logic. They're tripping over their smarts. Because it doesn't matter if you're full of education. If you're not full of faith, you're probably also to some degree full of shit. And something has to happen. And we're watching it happen. And doctors are still saying, we don't know what to do. And now we're all scared about the murder hornets. At what point do we drop our ego? Do we drop our fear of looking stupid or embarrassing ourselves and say, you know what? No, I'm going to walk with God because there's no other way. There's no other path. We're getting to the point where we have to start taking this excruciatingly seriously. Does anybody see? Nobody replied. Isn't that interesting? Nobody replied. I'm not big and scary. No one's afraid to debate me. But I simple question to people watching this video right now. Do you believe personally nation and humanity as a whole deserves Mashiach in peace? In peace. And not through war. Nobody has responded. Yet they still watch. And I'm not a scary monster. Nobody, let me see. Yeah. In my opinion, your silence answers my question. And that's the assumption that I'm going to make. Because we know we don't deserve Mashiach to show up with a bundle of roses on a cloud. We know we haven't earned that. There are so few people, when you think about the rabbis who are fighting on the front lines of faith, there's so few. There's only one rabbi I can think of by name right now, Rev Dror, that's actually fighting to save souls, period. And what does he tell you to do all day long? Talk to God, talk to God, talk to God, talk to God. Whatever the problem is, talk to God, because it is just that simple. Because those conversations with God matter. Those conversations with God save lives. And when medicine isn't saving lives, and there's negligence in our medical community all over the place, because it's probably really hard to deal with the coronavirus. If I had to imagine, it probably really is. But when we have doctors and nurses coming on camera, putting their bottoms on the line to alert the world of what's going on, we must respond with solutions. And if they sound stupid or crazy, then I don't care what you think, you're not my people. If you think prayer can't solve this, you're not for me. It's nothing personal. I choose to be around faithful people. It's just my decision. I'm at the point where if I don't talk about it, I think, well, who's going to? We have a lot of higher mind rabbis who are not talking anything about energy healing. They're talking nothing about the gifted. They're having people meditate. That is a dime a dozen. We need results. We need solutions. And when the practical solutions don't work, we have to start treating something as a spiritual matter by way of action, speech, and thought. If we are fighting a spiritual war, we need to fight a spiritual fight. Marcia says, humanity has hit an all-time low as a whole. None of us deserve a peaceful end. Evil has taken over and suppressed the good. Now, didn't I just say my basic assumption is that nobody thinks that we deserve this? Right. Nobody thinks we deserve this without war. It's a nice thought. Pray for it. Please do. But let's be honest with ourselves. Do you honestly think that Mashiach should come on a cloud holding a dozen roses, giving gumdrops to everybody? Or do you think that he should come serious as heavenly fire and giving us an option, bend the knee or die? I don't believe Mashiach is coming to play games and to negotiate with global leaders. And I hope he's not. Because once Mashiach is revealed, he will be our global leader and we won't need anybody else. Because we'll actually have a Navi who can talk to God. It's to the point, it's humiliating that the Jewish nation has been around as long as it has and that we don't have any declared Nevi'im in the world again. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. It's something to be ashamed of. And for those of you who never thought about it, I'm asking you to think about it tonight. It's shameful that the Jewish nation, who has been helped by Nevi'im for thousands of years, we haven't had Nevuah in a couple thousand years. That means something. That means something. It's just time to change completely our minds. And I am not saying that, how many people have said, well, gosh, but I've had intuitive readings this entire week. I have a couple tonight. You know how much it comes up that people need to talk to God? I'm not claiming to be a prophet, but I am clairscience, clairsentence, and clairvoyant. With mediumship capabilities and aura reading and psychic abilities and all sorts of things. I'm a given freak of nature. Not calling myself a Navi, but I will tell you what I see coming for us is the return of Nevuah. And it's not coming because we were good. It's coming because it has gotten so bad, I believe, that something has to happen. It is naive at this point to think that humanity is going to physically rebuild the Beis Hamikdash, the third and final holy temple. It's simply naive to think that a person is going to do that. If I were a betting person, I would cast a bet that it's going to come from the sky to the ground like it's prophesied in the book of Ezekiel. We have to be prepared, and we have to be spiritually aware. We cannot be spiritually asleep anymore. We can't. It's gotten to the point. Look where we're at. And now people are fighting about what is it? Where did the coronavirus come from? Who in the hell really cares? Does it really matter where it came from? At this point, people are still going to look into it. I can't control what people find interesting. But does it really matter where it came from? Or do we just maybe need to band together and pray to get rid of it? I'm not going to argue about where it came from. I think it was developed in a lab by a bunch of scientists with an agenda. That's what I think. But it doesn't matter where I think it came from. It's here. There's no way to get rid of it other than prayer. Pray for our doctors. Pray for our nurses. Pray for our hospitals. Pray for the patients. Pray for our parents. Pray for the children that can't go outside this summer because of murder hornets. It's gotten to the point where we are going to have to literally pray ourselves out of the shit. And we have no other option. There is no vaccine. And for those who think that there's going to be a vaccine in 6 months for the coronavirus, I don't believe that. It takes years to develop a vaccine. It takes years to develop a vaccine. Before I sign off, does anybody have any questions or any other topics that they'd like me to cover? I'll give everyone a chance to respond. Nope. All right. Well, I wish everyone a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will be doing a video possibly this evening on how to date with confidence and how to put our best foot forward when we're meeting new people. Thanks so much, and see you next video. And be sure when you see this on YouTube to like and subscribe. Thanks so much.